Hello, one and all from around the world. Great to have you with us. This is the Office Hours special coverage of NAB 2023. We are going to be doing our best to take you to the floor of the NAB at the Los Angeles Convention Center and exploring some of the newest technology in broadcast and on air and on the web and virtual coverage. We have hopefully multiple teams down there. We're checking in with them now to make sure that the connectivity from the Convention Center floor is working into our show. And our goal today is to kind of give you a sense of what it's like to go to the National Association of Broadcaster convention. I've been lucky. I've been there probably 20 years over the last 30, and it's an amazing environment. There are a tremendous number of high technology booths and the biggest companies in not just broadcast, that was the old days, and radio broadcast before TV broadcast, but also this emerging world of over-the-top broadcast and video across the internet and video over IP. Those technologies are exactly why everybody accumulates together typically in April in Las Vegas. There in the past have been other shows in other cities like Chicago and things like that, but it's kind of all collapsed down into this huge trade show convention in Las Vegas. And we want to give you a little bit of the taste, the flavor of that experience as if you were going to NAB. To that end, we have established a series of teams, and we're being very aggressive this year. What we're going to try to do is go out into the field and show you kind of what it's like to be there. In fact, I'm going to do one little thing before that, but right after that, we're going to the field for our first field insert. And what I want to do is just show you the panel. We've got a great panel assembled here, and those of the office hours regulars who are a part of our adventure are going to be sitting here with me. We're all going to be watching the coverage together. We're going to be checking in with our panelists and then going out into the field to kind of show you what it's like. And as a matter of fact, I believe George Kennedy is waiting for our first NAB show floor insert. So George, can you hear me? Are you out there? Are you available to come in? George,
good morning, Paul. We're finally going to get going. We're at Adobe booths, live on office hours. What is new with Premiere Pro?
Hey, George. This year we have introduced AI-based text-based editing in Premiere Pro. So when you ingest footage, you can automatically generate a transcript, and then you can see that transcript, you can read it, you can assign speaker names, and you can literally edit video as simple as copying and pasting the text that you see in the transcript to build a rough cut. So it's really exciting new AI feature in Premiere Pro. We've also been really working on performance and reliability, and I am very happy to say that this is the fastest and most reliable version of Premiere that we've ever shipped. We've done a ton of work to do GPU acceleration, so everything from your Pro formats to AVC are all faster and GPU accelerated. We've added some acceleration for transitions and filters and effects. You'll find that many MOGRTs now run in real time or close to real time, and general application interactivity and responsiveness is greatly improved. So we're at a point now where we can actually edit 8K in the timeline, which is really exciting. We've also re-engaged with the community post-pandemic. We're talking to lots of editors. We're back here in person at NAB 23 talking to people, and we've implemented dozens of features that customers and editors have been asking us for. So, you know, some of the small quality of life workflow things that really make a difference. So the ability to bulk edit captions and graphics and text so that you don't have to change things one at a time. We've got better track targeting in the timeline, so you could just very quickly swipe up and down and retarget your tracks, where we've got better masking tools with more precision and higher levels of zoom, so you can get in and really adjust the fine details on some of these things. So go ahead.
There's this, obviously you just gave a whole list of the pro features, but I noticed this big push on social right now. What kind of did you guys add more social tools to this release, or we're going to see more in the future?
So we consider everything that we're doing is really in service of social, as well as your pro editors that might be working on, you know, film, television, whatever, because a lot of there's just so much overlap in the workflows. It's just the distribution channel is different. So, you know, we've got automatic reframing, which we introduced previously before. We've got all kinds of, you know, great filters and effects for social. We've got the ability to export in different raster sizes, 9:16, square, all of that stuff. So everything that we do is really in service of both the pro editor and a social editor.
Excellent. So that's the Premiere Pro side, how about I know there's this big push right now for the cloud. One of the themes at NAB this year is connect. Multiple vendors are using the word connect in their products. How are you guys doing with Frame.io? I know there's a massive push to the cloud. What's new with Frame.io?
Yeah, so Frame.io, we've got some new camera to cloud stuff this year. Frame.io is expanding from video workflows to also include still workflows now and PDF document-based workflows. So we've got some new review and approval tools for still images and for PDF documents and the like. And then with respect to our cloud workflows, we've actually improved collaborative editing in Premiere Pro. So we now have presence indicators, the ability to lock sequences if multiple editors are working on them at the same time. And then we also are, when you're in a collaborative editing environment, we work with our partners over at LucidLink, where your cloud storage shows up as if it were local storage on your Premiere workstation. So you could be editing in New York, I could be editing in LA, we could all be working on the same project. Frame's also introducing some new security. So there's forensic watermarking in Frame.io, which basically is like a digital thumbprint on every piece of media. So any media that is 30 seconds or longer can get a forensic watermark on it, which means it can't be viewed or played on any device it's not supposed to.
So before we jump to a few questions, so what a lot of folks don't know, maybe that Frame.io you can actually not necessarily use it as a Dropbox feature, but you definitely could use it to transfer files to work with clients. It doesn't necessarily have to be part of the project. You could create folders just to share back and forth.
Yeah, you can create any arbitrary folder structure in Frame.io that you want. And then if you're editing in Premiere, you can of course use the frame panel inside of Premiere, which is included with Creative Cloud, and you can assign access to whatever folders you want me to see. And then you dump footage in there, it'll just pop up in the frame panel in Premiere and I can just start editing with it.
Excellent. Do we have any questions for Paul?
Yeah, I actually wanted to know from Paul. He's been coming to NAB for decades.
While we're waiting for questions, After Effects is 30 years old, celebrating 30 years now.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so it's a big year for After Effects. We've added a new properties panel to After Effects, which is actually a really big UI change, in that rather than having to go through your timeline to hunt for filters and effects and parameters that you want to animate and adjust, you just click on an object and its parameters appear in the properties panel, so you can just start animating very quickly and easily. And it's part of our effort to make After Effects a little more appealing and a little more friendly for editors and people that aren't necessarily motion designers.
Excellent. I don't think we have any questions coming in through, but it's always great seeing you, Paul, and we're coming live from the Adobe booth. Back to the panel.
Great. Thanks, George.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, George. Talking to Paul Saccone of Adobe and getting our first input from the field. Wow, it looks like it's going to be a show. I was hoping to ask George whether George and or Paul how this year's NAB simply feels, whether it's big, small, whether the crowds are coming back. But is anybody on the panel particularly interested in any of the things that Adobe has announced for this year? It looks like they've done some significant work over the course of the last year. And I'm seeing no hands raised. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about NAB and just how it came to be and why it's such an critical part of our entire industry. From back in the early days when broadcasting was becoming big, and I learned most of my chops. I made most of my friendships by going to trade shows like NAB. And it was amazing how quickly in the modern era it had to make the flip from broadcast coverage to all of the new video over IP and the technological shifts that were coming that supplanted the old broadcast processes. Marty, you've been going for a long time. What do you see as part of NAB now that you didn't see back in the earlier days?
Well, the whole idea and experience of being at a show like NAB is that, unlike other times of the year when companies might make announcements about new products and new features and stuff, and you look at them, maybe you even give them a call or you talk to a sales rep about, what is this new thing and how can I use it? Going to the NAB and being on the show floor and being able to talk to all of these companies all at the same time really gives you a really good sense of how you can put things together, what products will work with other products and how things complement each other. And when you're trying to evaluate, well, should I buy this one or that one? What are the advantages of each for my particular application? How I would use this thing, whether you're doing ENG in the field, or you're doing a larger electronic film production, or you're in the studio, or you're an editor, or you're a voiceover announcer. You get to look at all of these different things and talk to enough people from the manufacturers and from the distributors and from some dealers that you can really get a good sense of how to use some of these new products, new features, and the advantages.
Grant, you had some thoughts?
Yeah, and I've been to NAB a few times, and I think we're in a really interesting time, sort of post-COVID, where the access to some of the people in these companies before, I think, this is one of the few opportunities when you go on the floor at NAB, you're going to meet some of the people that are high up, some of the engineers and people that really know their stuff, not just sales guys, although there's lots of sales people there as well, but often there's some really technical people there too. Although I feel like there's a bit of a shift now, and that's one of the things that we love on Office Hours, is when we get technical people from some of these companies to come on and spend an hour with us. Now, and that sort of access is not what you get even if you go to NAB. So it's a really interesting shift that we're starting to see. But I do have to say that having the fact that I can't be there right now, this is certainly the next best thing, where we're able to see these people and get a few questions through and enjoy it as we are all around the world doing this together.
Absolutely. Cool. Alexander, you had a thought or two.
Yeah, it's really interesting because in the past, I never really paid much attention to NAB. I, as an outsider, someone who's never attended, I always looked at NAB as it's a convention with a bunch of products that are completely unattainable to me as the average person. But as I've developed more of an interest in broadcast and also seeing a real fundamental change, I mean, we've got companies at NAB that you would never think would be at NAB. I mean, just look at Rode. They're a primary example. They make a lot of fantastic quality products that are they really make it accessible for content creators, to improve their sound. And now they're venturing into products that support video. So we're really seeing a fundamental change in a lot of the types of companies that are showcasing products at NAB. And I think that's a fantastic trend. And that's something that I want to continue to see.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think Roscoe mentioned in the first part of the show that this convergence of the top-end broadcast stuff and the low-end, what used to be called prosumer stuff, the delta between the performance of those has gotten narrower and narrower over time. It's not that the prosumer stuff or whatever, the low-end, less expensive stuff completely replaces the top-end stuff, but it's that more kinds of gear are available for people wishing to explore the broadcast arts. Roscoe, you had thoughts?
Well, yeah, exactly that. I mean, the budgets are being squeezed. Most local broadcasters, which are stations, are only doing news. They're not producing much else. Maybe a fair show. Their budgets are squeezed. They need the roads. They need the less expensive equipment so that they can continue to meet their audience's needs. I thought what George just showed us is interesting because if you go back in time, we had one of our best demos we ever felt we got, or second hours, I should say, was Frame.io. They just did it. They just knocked it out of the park. Great microphones, great lighting, great presentation. And here, maybe Adobe saw them or something happened, but here they just got swallowed up by Adobe. They're now part of, Adobe. And so that's what you see at NAB. You see maybe the behind the scenes deals being made, but you do see companies being absorbed and bought out, and it'll probably continue.
That level of commerce has always been a part of NAB. In fact, I remember the first time I realized that some of the big booths from names that I wasn't even aware of. I mean, I was in broadcast, but I wasn't in the technical side of that. So you'd see a Ross broadcast or one of the other, they were big names in television stations and things like that. And you'd see their booth on the floor of NAB. And there was the whole kind of consumer accessible part of their booth. But there was also maybe a second level. They had actually done a 2-story or sometimes really complex, huge footprint, multi-story booth And I said, what happens up there? And he goes, those are the people with the big purchase orders. And if you're buying helicopters for NBC or something like that, they want a nice quiet place off the show floor where they can take you there. And, really the sales team will answer all of your questions because you're buying 16 Bell Jet Rangers with Tyler mount cameras for NBC or something like that. There's a tremendous amount of commerce that happens in the process of this. Jesse Mills, you wanted to weigh in a little bit?
Sure, yeah. Like other panelists have spoken about, I really love to see and excited about like this multi-tiered approach that NAB is evolving into, where it's not just super high-end broadcasters talking about helicopter purchases and such. And I think it's helpful to have something like the office hours community here where we can talk about various product tiers and also look at what we sort of talked about as sort of a trickle-down effect of technology to look and see what technologies will make it to all these different tiers and what are the key elements of these technologies that will help them retain their viability over the years. And, where is that price point at? Where is the usability? There's a lot of new cloud services that are, addressing higher tier broadcasting groups, as well as people that are doing, vlogging and podcasting and things like that. Big developments in the vertical video world with the 9:16 shift for a lot of these platforms. And so, yeah, excited to see the diversification of NAB as a whole. And I have zero FOMO, actually, because I typically watch the NAB broadcasts and vendor breakout videos online. So I'm kind of used to experiencing it in this way. And this particular year, there's just a wider span of coverage and more people out there in the field, and excited to see the office hours crew out there doing it.
Yeah, we've heard from George on the first crew. Second crew is working on an audio issue, and they should be in a little bit later. Marty, what are your other thoughts?
When you walk into a hall at NAB, and what that means is that there are multiple buildings, and each building has at least one gigantic cavernous hall, right? And so there are like 5 or 6 of these. And when you walk into one, the first thing that you see are the large companies, the large vendors who have lots of money, and they create these really large exhibit booths, and they're really large. And that's the first thing that NAB wants you to see is these large companies. But as you walk down the aisles and you go towards the back of the room, what you'll find are a whole bunch of small booths, these little 10 by 10s, where the smaller companies from all around the world are exhibiting their products. And these, to me, are some of the most interesting and innovative things, because they're coming from the bottom up, right? These are the companies that are addressing specific needs, making products that fulfill, solve problems, right? That are people in the field and people in the studio. And these are the companies that end up getting bought out by the larger companies. And so these are the most innovative things. And in the past, I've seen, I don't know if they're there this year, but I've seen countries buy up ranges of booths, so that there'll be a whole bunch of booths from Sweden and a whole bunch of booths from France and so on and so forth. And, these are some of the more interesting things to look for.
100% agree with you. I can't tell you the number of times that one problem solver that I've been gnawing on for 5 years in my production process, and I can't solve it. I can't mount this thing, or I can't figure out how to get that cable over here and dress it without it looking sloppy. And you be in some little back 10 by 10 booth, and somebody has said, that is a problem, let me fix it. And you find the exact right thing to fix the problem with. I've had that happen to me dozens upon dozens of times at NAB over the course of the years, and it's really one of the things that's magical. And then it's really cool, too, to see something that started out as a 10 by 10. Next year, it's a 20 by 10. The next year, it's a 40 by 40. And you could just see that that small engineer without a giant process around them or entrepreneur in the business sense comes up with something that really does fix a problem, and then eventually they get to the point where their product is integrated into all the Sony cameras or the Panasonic cameras or whatever, and you realize that 3 or 4 years ahead of time you saw that coming. You saw that problem being solved by the people who engage in this process. Alexander, you had another thought?
Yeah, I mean, as we see a lot of these wonderful, more cost-effective prosumer products that solve real problems that a lot of content creators have, it's made me think about just how much more the average person is really demanding of their gear. They want to be able to do more, and these companies are actually trying to solve these problems. And it also made me think about how you got companies like Formula One that are doing this really expensive R&D, developing this really high-end technology, and we see this technology trickle down all the way into consumer cars. I mean, you can buy a car now that has paddle shifters, just like a Formula One car, and we're now seeing this in audio and video products.
Nice. We are about to go back out to the show floor, but in between now and then, Roscoe has one last little comment.
Well, I just say, yeah, we do search the floor for disruptive technologies. It may be in that little booth in the back. It may be, something that I love DaVinci Resolve. They have a no-cost video editing system that's really good. And I go, that's kind of disruptive to anyone else who tries to show up at NAB and say, hey, I want to introduce my new video editing software. Ain't going to happen. But, and to be honest, we're kind of here as a disruptive technology ourselves. We're thinking, hey, this is a good way to see NAB. Maybe you don't have to buy a ticket.
Yeah, and the other thing that's been a big theme for me is just watching the show evolve. Again, terrestrial broadcast, the big stations, the big networks, dominated NAB for many, many years. They were playing a big game that required massive amounts of infrastructure, investment. If you didn't have a huge pot of money behind you, you couldn't compete with the ABC, NBC. During the digital era and this transformation, everything has really kind of been turned on its head. And now small groups, instead of the big groups, have, I think, a much more level playing field. If you have really compelling content, even if you're not a big-time process, you can do that. I understand we're going back out to the floor of NAB now. They've gotten one of our systems up in operation. So where am I headed, Ross? No, I see Jeffrey Powers there standing on the show floor. So Jeffrey, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Bill. Hey, everybody. Jeffrey Powers here, NAB 2023. We're here with, of course, we got TJ over here, and the man himself, of course, he's been on the show a few times, Mr. Bo Cordell. How you doing, Bo?
Doing great. It's great to be here. So glad to see a lot of y'all in real life.
Yeah, and here we are on, where are we? Are we in or are we here at the Voyager for Ross? That's the real question.
Yeah, so what you're looking at right now, we're standing on the Ross's XR stage. Okay. So we're demoing Voyager, which is Ross's build, custom build of the Unreal Engine. And we are using Unreal 5.1, so that's new here at the show. Okay. So what you can see, if you're looking at us in real life, you see the trade show and all that around the LED wall. But if you're looking at us through the camera and through the Voyager system, then it looks like one seamless giant house. And you see as the jib pans around, arms around, you can see the parallax all moves as if it were real life. Yeah. So it's a really cool, really cool effect. You can do a lot with it, in simple, press of the button, you can be in a completely different world.
Yeah, I'd love to have this in my studio here because, you got the camera coming up here, we got the teleprompter. I don't have any of this stuff, so this is like next level for me. And all the lights too, that's just amazing.
Yeah, we have full DMX control of the lights. There's about to be a demo starting here in a minute that kind of goes through all the newsroom workflows and all the different things that, we have full DMX control of the lights. So when they do the weather, the weather can change and lightning can, make it look realistic. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
There's a lot of other stuff in the booth. You want to take a look? Or?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the whole booth, and we're going to walk around.
Awesome.
So grab it.
Oh, perfect.
Keep it as close to your mouth as possible.
Yeah, so Ross is showing off a lot of things. We're started off as a switcher company, so there's a lot of switcher things here. We've got the Carbonite line, the Acuity. New at the show is the Carbonite Ultra 60, which is a 60 input, 25 output, 3 RU switcher. And then let's see, we had some other office hours people. Let's see if we can find them.
Now, just so everybody knows who's watching, you're in one little tiny corner of one hall at NAB walking through it.
You may know this
three
guy,
halls,
but he's
multiple floors of this.
Guys over here looking at the Ross Graphite Cloud Production Center. So this is a graphite switcher in the cloud in AWS. So, NDI inputs, you can integrate with Zoom, Teams, the whole thing. So I got 4 channels of expression graphics built in and a couple channels of clip playback. And it's a full production center in the cloud, so it's something we're very familiar with here.
Expression's your family of character generators?
Yep, Expression's the line of, so it started as a character generator. It's kind of grown into a lot more. So right now, in addition to just the normal newsroom, Expression, lower thirds, that kind of thing, Expression Tessera is also running all the LEDs you see here in the board, in the booth.
Yeah, guys.
Stadiums have become
a little bit of a switching back there. You can see that if you want to pan in on that.
Yeah, so what you're looking at, that's a physical Ross touch drive 1ME panel, and it's controlling the switcher in the cloud.
And who's your cloud provider for this example?
AWS.
It's AWS?
Yep. I think the graphite CPC runs on just like a G4D, and I think it's an 8XL typically. Yep.
So how much does a system like this cost?
I'm not a sales guy.
Oh, okay.
Email me and I'll connect you with a sales guy. Okay. I don't know. There are, there's CapEx and OpEx models, so you can pay by the month. You can just rent it for a month or however, a couple months, or you can buy the license outright.
Got it.
So.
Now, you'd been talking about Tessera. Stadiums are a pretty big market for Ross as well, are they not?
Stadiums are a huge market for Ross. Yeah, so if you come over here, you can see that all these displays, we've kind of simulated a arena kind of feel. So all these displays are being run by Expression Tessera. And then you can see this is the biggest switcher panel we make, an Acuity, 4-stripe panel that can fully control the whole system. So we can, with Ross Talk, you can control expressions and switchers and all the things that Ross makes.
Now, have you guys also started manufacturing physical LED displays?
So Ross purchased a company, D3 LED, in the last year. So all these LEDs are Ross branded, products.
Wow, and what's the lowest pixel pitch, the space between the pixels that you guys are able to do now?
I believe it's 1.8. Don't hold me to that. I'm not the LED expert. I'm typically the AR expert. So
fair enough.
We've got a lot of stuff over there. Signal processing. We announced this past year a 12RU router. The
Ultrix 12RU.
Yep.
Were there any new updates that kind of came at NAB this time for it?
So, and again, I'm not the router guy, but there's a software update that introduced some audio delays and some HDR conversion that you can do in the router.
Wow.
So I'm excited to see the new updates when it drops.
Bill, are there any questions coming in for anyone for Ross?
I don't see any specific questions, but can you hear me in the field? Just wanted to touch base with whether our bidirectional comms is working.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear there, Bill.
Excellent. Everybody's really excited, and thanks, Bo, for giving us a tour on that. Actually, all of our systems are up and running, so we're in the process of getting ready to go very many places. Bo, this was so nice of you to give us a look into the show floor. It was really exciting. Okay, so I think we're heading back to the panel for just a moment. That's what I'm hearing.
Thanks, guys.
Well done from the field. Big systems. Big TV stations. I mean, NAB was built and got its chops cut on these gigantic, huge broadcast systems. Any thoughts from the panel about what we've seen here? Grant has a note.
Yeah, I really love the Ross gear. I've worked in a couple of stadiums here that are all kitted out with Ross gear, and the way that it all talks. Earlier on Office Hours, we were talking about Ross Talk as an open protocol, and actually we've had Bo talk to us about the dashboard system that Ross has as well. That's an open standard that they have, that you can download this dashboard and then control a whole bunch of things. And so I really like the way they think. And the software looks really interesting. I'm particularly interested in that cloud the cloud switching software, and having a hardware switcher, a remote hardware switcher for that is really impressive. So, that's one of the booths I would spend some time in. I'm not surprised at all that we found Guy sitting there playing around with that. That's super cool.
So we are going to jump right out of this booth and into another one. I understand Javier Alfaro from our Office Hours community is on the show floor. Javier, what are you seeing?
Hey, Bill. I'm very excited to be here, and we're in the North Hall in one of the biggest vendors, and we're in front of Blackmagic Design. They're showing like a lot of things. They're really flexing. They have this like different stations that we may like approach later, so you can see all the things that are presenting. They have like this software. They're presenting all the tools that they can have. They're presenting like the new constellations, and everything is great. It's my first time on NAB. I'm very excited. So if you wanna have like the take of the newbie of the NAB floor, you can ask some questions, and I'll be here. It's a great conference right now.
Absolutely.
It's huge.
Can you hear me? Absolutely.
Right
what's your first impression of NAB as a newbie to the show floor? How overwhelming is it for you?
It's very overwhelming, and even though a lot of people have been saying like, no, it used to be bigger and everything, it's the energy is great. Like there's a lot of people coming and going everywhere. We haven't gotten to the smaller vendors. We're going to go there as well. But now that we are standing here in the big ones, and they're like really, really showing great things. So it's been.
Whoops, I think we just lost your audio for a second there. I was just going to check and find out. Now, this year NAB is West Hall, which is the brand new one, just opened this past year. Then North Hall, which has been traditionally kind of one of the smaller areas. It's very close to the cafeteria and the training areas upstairs. Then Central Hall has always been kind of the middle. That was more traditional broadcast in the old days. They used to do South Hall, which was a double-decker huge thing, but I understand we've only got the 3 halls running this year. So I think everything we've seen so far has been from one part of one of the halls. Hopefully we'll be able to see some of the newer areas as well. But already everything is starting to work, and we're starting to get more and more, give you hopefully more and more an idea of what NAB is all about. It is a huge warren of okay. We just got word that we can't go back to Field Team 1 because their audio is still having troubles. This is a first day NAB kind of thing, but you're seeing a live picture as they're wandering around here. This would be your typical experience as you wandered through the NAB for the first time. Blackmagic is one of the largest booths there. That's a huge keystone of the show. And it's kind of around the periphery and in the smaller halls where you see those little booths we've talked so much about. Roscoe, you had some thoughts about how it looks so far?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, what we talk about disruptive, but in fact, the other thing is innovative. I mean, look at Ross. They've got this, huge, massive switchers. They've got large installed, and now they're willing to put it all up on the cloud. And then the other thing is, as I think Grant mentioned, then I can access it. I can access this huge iron. And Blackmagic's in the same thing. They put that, they put in a IP port on that DeckLink card, and now we're looking at taking in incredibly high-resolution stuff and being able to put it out onto IP, and it's just going to keep going.
I understand Javier's back with us with audio. Javier, are you standing by?
Yeah, can you hear me now, Bill?
Yes, we can hear you. Great to have you out there. So we're getting your first impressions as a relatively newbie to the... Yeah, we must have a delay. So what are your impressions just having seen this for the first time?
It's been great. Okay, it's been great. It's like a huge show. Like we're standing right now at North Hall, just in the entrance of North Hall, and there's like this big vendors right now. We're gonna go dive deeper into the smaller vendors later, and it's been really, really interesting. There's a lot of things happening, a lot of different companies showing like these new things, and like really, really trying to get people to every booth. So it's gonna be a very, very interesting show.
Nice, very nice. Well, we'll let you go wander a little bit and talk to Grant for a minute. Grant, you've been watching this. What have been your impressions? Does that feel like the NABs of the past?
Yeah, particularly the Blackmagic area there. I mean, they are spread out so much. It's quite a huge booth, and then not a huge amount of products. I mean, they've got a big product range, but you know what I mean. There's quite a lot of space in between that. It's quite an impressive space to be in, the Blackmagic area. But I hope that they can get, or one of the teams can get to some of that new SMPTE 2110 announcement.
Hey, Raj, I'm seeing
Blackmagic. That'd be great.
Let's go to Grant. Oh, I'm sorry. We were just at Grant. Jesse Mills.
Yeah, it's so as others have talked about, really interesting to see adoption of cloud-based platforms and technologies, and some of those vendors are making that entry point low for consumers. Like, for example, the ROS graphics system can be run on a laptop with the AJA interface there, and others are bringing in video switching in the cloud, like LiveU, for example, which we'll probably try to get to a little bit later. But I'm really interested to see how these areas of cloud and traditional SDI and network-based or IP video like 2110 and NDI sort of all marry together in some ways. So I think we'll probably hear a little bit more about those technologies and how they're overlapping and allowing a little bit more accessibility for people at all these different tiers, and really excited to see that. And also, those overlapping technologies provide a lot of redundancy in setups where you really trust that SDI workflow, but you want to experiment with network video, you want to experiment with cloud-based video production. So excited to see all that stuff.
So we have a question in from the regular Mukana system that we're using. For those of you who are regulars on office hours, we have a back-end system where you can put your questions in. And as it makes sense over the course of the show, we'll see if we can get your questions to the people who matter on the NAB show floor. Steve Brenneman is coming in from Indianapolis in our Mukana system with which big name exhibitors have indicated an awareness of office hours when approached for content or even in passing, including on Sunday. Have any of you who are on the panel heard anything about that, or has anybody? We haven't heard specifically. I know Javier was out there. Javier, are you still on the show floor, and can you hear me? And have you heard anything about office hours while you've been there?
Hey, Bill. Yeah, I can hear you. We're still here in Blackmagic. We're going to try to go into some of these satellites that they have that they're showing a lot of stuff. So if there's anything that you want to know from here, let me know, and I'll try to report it.
Well, yeah, the panel's just interested in whether anybody that you talked to today, whether office hours as a show is having any impact on people. We would know that people like Bo Cordell that we just talked to in the Ross booth is a longtime friend of the show. So there will be people roaming around who participated in what we do here every morning. And I think we're just, some of the people are interested in how far our reach has gotten. So anybody on the panel have any thoughts about, have you heard from your friends, neighbors, or people in the industry about whether or not they have any awareness of what we're trying to do here? And I'm not seeing anybody with a hand raised. Okay. So Bill,
just sorry. I watched a little bit yesterday as they were going around, and there were people that knew of office hours. If they were from, it's interesting. Depending on how far they came away from, if they were Silicon Valley based, they'd heard of us. In other words, if I kind of knew that, but otherwise, if they'd come from far away, not as likely to have heard of office hours.
That made perfect sense. So, and I understand, Alexander, you're going to work as the reader now, so I don't have to split my brain in 17 different directions. I can drop back down to 15, which is where I was comfortable. The panelists are out there looking for things to do and looking for pieces of coverage. This has been a really fascinating experiment already. The fact that I would have had to walk, I forgot that Blackmagic this year is in the North Hall, which means that we've already taken one of the 15-minute walks that I used to have to do to see two places on the show floor, and I didn't have to go anywhere. So I'm really encouraged by this. We laugh about it, but one of the first rules of NAB coverage is I don't care how fancy you want to dress, wear comfortable shoes, because the amount of miles you put on your feet trying to get to everything you want to see is kind of ridiculous. I'd always be just exhausted at the end. Not even at the end. I'd be exhausted at 5 o'clock when I was trying to get ready to go out and do something in the evening. And many of the biggest things that happen at NAB are the social events, and that's one of the great places where you can make context around. Alexander, you had some thoughts on NAB?
Yeah, I'm curious from a technical perspective, because we all know like internet, Wi-Fi, cellular coverage at these types of events are always a challenge. For those that have gone in the past, do we have a sense of have there been any back-end improvements? Because I'm surprised at how stable this is.
I will tell you that as soon as 5 or 6 years ago, I tried to get any kind of a signal out of the show floor at NAB and failed from moment one until the last day. I could not get anything off the show floor. You've got 100,000 plus, as many as 160,000 in some years, people, all of whom are technologists, often all of whom have cell phones, and a lot of them wanting to do live recordings. And it just, the Wi-Fi was always terrible. The cellular coverage was always terrible. In the past, I'm astonished that we are getting signals out of this and signals that we can watch and that work out really well. Roscoe, your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly what you said, Bill. It used to be cell phones, you walk in the building, gone. Don't even try and use it. And the Wi-Fi, and I think Marty pointed this out, they charge. If you want a good pipe coming down to your booth, you're going to pay really good money for that, and that's part of the business model, which is okay. I don't want to say that they specifically downgraded the other services, but it did cost good money to get a good pipe to your booth, and therefore it was a really big thing to have a booth with good connection.
Yeah, cost a lot of money. I remember I went up to one of my friends and going, "Did you guys got to drop to your booth, right? Is there any chance I get about that much of it out?" And they looked at me and went, "No, you're not touching our Wi-Fi right now. If we give the password to anybody, one accident, and we've got literally 30,000 people trying to vampire off our Wi-Fi here. So that was a resource that was really jealously guarded in the past. It sounds like at least 2 of our teams are doing well, and I know Jeffrey was in there, and it'd be interesting to find out. I think Jeffrey's coming in off of not one of the LiveUs. I might be wrong about that, but we'll get more interested in that. And now you're walking around. This would be a typical kind of a vision you'd have as an attendee at office hours. The medium-sized booths. I've been surprised. A lot of the overhead signage, because these halls are so big. And I'm trying to recognize that might be North Hall. You see like the big beams going across. That's because these things are sometimes 3 football fields deep, and way in the back there are still booths going on. So even relatively well-known, relatively stable companies, we're looking at vMix here, they don't have the giant Sony level booths, but they still put a lot of time and effort and money into their NAB presence. And this is the kind of thing you would see just walking through. So you're putting all these miles on there. You can see they've had to carpet a vast amount of this, and even with the carpet, and your feet get really tired as you just go over that. And you're looking for these kind of things, is the booth that you're walking past something that you're interested in? And they're on the front and the back. So we're looking at QNAP here. If you were interested in QNAP things, this is one of the reasons I said you should really circle the ones that you want to get to. Because if you're down at the other end coming in the doors and QNAP is facing away from you, if you don't know where you're going, it's really hard to see them. The show is so big that you can't literally stand in any place and get any kind of an idea of how big the whole thing is. It is a massive trade show. Very fun to attend. Alexander?
Bill, Bill, I was just going to say it's a really interesting shift as we're talking about a broadcast show, and you've got actually just a very standard storage company like QNAP is actually a really important thing now in the broadcast industry, is that they need all this extra support that they need from all their IT infrastructure and how they do storage and shared storage across a network and things is really super important with most of the gear now, IP based, backup recordings and things like that. So it's super interesting, but it's also good to see the vMix booth there and another good Australian company from Queensland and Brisbane.
100%.
Those guys are doing some really cool stuff, and so and I also noticed that the lanyards once again have vMix. So the vMix would have put some decent money into sponsoring the lanyards for the thousands of people that are attending the conference.
Tens of thousands of people.
Right,
So in
right.
order for 100,000 lanyards doesn't come cheap generally, and in fact. Getting lanyards some years was a big challenge because you had so many people come that if you didn't get there in the first few hours of NAB on the first day, lanyards became a hard thing to do. Marty, you had some thoughts?
Yeah, so you mentioned that NAB is primarily a broadcast show, and while that's true, with the way that costs have come down on purchasing of products, the technology is so much more affordable these days. It's not just video, it's not just audio, but there's lighting there, there are vehicles there, there's wireless, there's storage, there's just all kinds of things that you might think of peripheral to broadcasting, but also are important to the theater industry and important to the radio industry, and even loudspeakers and other things. So it's a huge show, and if you've never been to an NAB show, advanced planning is really, really important because you can get information overload and just turn your brain off in about a half an hour on the first day of the show floor, So you really want to plan out your route and look at the NAB program guide, like start a week early, right before you leave, and figure out who it is you want to talk to, who are the most important vendors that you want to see, and guarantee, even if you just pick 6 of those, on the way to those booths, you'll stop at a dozen others. It's really easy to get. You can get lost at an NAB, but you can get information overload, and you can come back with an entire suitcase full of paper.
Oh, boy. Do you remember that era of the Chrome Coat brochures? And you get like 50 brochures, and now your bag weighs about 75 pounds, and you have to walk there and get that back on the airplane. Not fun. Alexander,
and I understand. Back by UPS.
That's right. Alexander, and I understand you're reading. Word didn't get to me, so we'll have you do the next question right after your comment. Alexander?
Yeah, I love seeing this first-person view of just wandering the halls because I knew this was a big show, but I couldn't really quantify it in my mind. And now seeing how cavernous this space is, and Marty, you talked about information overload. It really reminds me, that feeling you get as a kid when you walk into a massive toy store and you just, where do I start? Do I start there? Do I start over there? And that's how I'm feeling right now. And I can see the butterflies flying out of my wallet too.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it. You see a lot of things. You go, I could use that. Oh, I could use that. I could use that. Yeah, it's overwhelming. Okay, I just have been told in my ear that George is at the Sonnet booth, and we'll come right back to Alexander reading the next question. But let's go to George on the show floor at Sonnet. George, are you with us? Can you come in?
So this is George. I'm actually here. I can hear you. I'm actually here with TJ, and TJ is going to lead us off.
Yeah, no, we're here at Sonnet, and I know, George, I've had a Sonnet dock on my desk with my laptop. Like, they make some great, Thunderbolt to HDMI, USB, everything you might need to go with your computer, because some manufacturers don't like putting a lot of ports on their computers anymore. But you were here yesterday, and you said there was something that really caught your eye that you really wanted to show off.
Right. Well, why don't we show them the small stuff first, and then we'll show them the real beauty back here.
Sounds great.
So yesterday we were here, and what Sonnet has now is this. It's an interface, but it's got HDMI out and display ports. So you're going to be able to put this on an M2 or M1 and get multiple display out across the board. And you could pick your source. So you could either do display port or HDMI. So definitely they have a new lineup of different flavors. That's just one of the pieces that they have here at the booth. The big thing that was announced here is these new expansion chassis. And I know Andy Coluccia was here from Zoom, so this is going to become a big deal because I'm going to go ahead and spin this around. And what's in here, guys?
Oh, there's a Mac Mini in there.
This is a Mac Mini. So this looks like it's the M2 with the full Thunderbolt ports out. And what Sonnet has done is put two expansion slots in here. These two expansion slots have independent Thunderbolt controllers. So which means, guys, you potentially can put two deck-link quads in here and have 16 zoom ISOs coming out of this box, theoretically. So two Thunderbolt ports going to two Thunderbolt outs going to each expansion slot. One is going to the front of the chassis, leaves you with a HDMI out and one Thunderbolt out, which you could on the bottom here you could do a storage expansion. But this is really a big deal. I know Andy was by here yesterday, and they're going to be taking a look at this. So pretty much, this is a 1U configuration, and obviously you could expand it more for some storage, but I really like this 1U configuration. And again, the big deal is the expansion of it. And I know Alex is probably going to be excited about this. Mac Mini, potentially an M2 to give you the horsepower, and we'll have to test the other Macs to see what it does. But it's the two expansion slots in here, independent control, which means you could put two deck-link quads in here. Also,
and just a quick point on just a quick question here. You would provide the Mac, you'd provide the deck-link cards. Sonnet is basically selling you the frame that allows you to put those cards with your computer.
And essentially also what we have here is the actually desktop version that you could just walk away with. Same thing, two expansion slots, and you'll be able to just put a Mac Mini in here with two deck-link quads inside of it. So I think that's really exciting from Sonnet announcement. I think these are going to be available in start production in July and available in August. If we want to slip down to the front here, if you want to walk us down.
It's just amazing. I mean, this is what we've been talking about.
So these are Ethernet interfaces. So what we have here, especially this one here, this is 25 Gs, guys. Not 25 grand, 25 gigabytes of internet speed. So this is a new announcement from Sonnet also at this NAB. So they have a couple of different flavors here. So this is the 10G, and this is the actual, the two 10Gs and 125G. So it's going to be really exciting to what they're putting into these boxes. Will we swing to Robert real quick? Come on, Robert, come on in here. We're wrapping it up. Robert, we're going to have to come back and get you. Okay. But I think we've got the message across, okay? Thank you, sir. All right.
Bill, back to you.
Absolutely. Amazing stuff. And you can see we've been talking for a long time about video over IP and how this is just coming through the broadcast industry and everything else. Everything is shifting. And now the kind of stuff we talk about every day on office hours, which is Mac Minis in production and how the smaller format stuff is driving massive amounts of power into affordable production gear, really has the potential to change the entire industry. And there will be more of the kind of stuff that we're doing. And maybe less, maybe not less, but at least in parallel with what the big broadcasters have been doing for a long time. I guess we're going right back out to the show floor to Felipe, who's somewhere near Hedge. Felipe, what have you got going on?
Hey, Bill, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here at NAB 2023 for office hours. And here is my friend Paul Matthias from Hedge. And Paul, please tell us what Hedge is about, because not everyone has heard about you. So,
thanks for having me. We make software. We try to remove all the friction from between camera and archiving in an affordable solution. So we have a range of 8 apps, starting with Hedge, which we're renaming to Offshoot, which is for camera card offloads.
So what? You're renaming Hedge?
Yes.
Your flagship?
Yeah, our flagship app has been around for 7 years, and there was quite some confusion on, is Hedge a company, is Hedge an app? Well, it was both. So we're offshooting Hedge into Offshoot. And we're going to do that a few weeks from now, and we're adding a lot of new features to it, like native S3 collaboration, integration, built together with AWS.
So just a quick thing here. So Hedge, right now you normally can get from your camera card to an SSD to a network attached storage, and you're saying that you're on an upcoming update, you're going to be able to offload from card to S3.
Yes,
that's correct.
In a fully verified way. So we work together with AWS to build a layer of verification that you are used to having from disk-based offloads for the cloud as well.
All right. So what else is new?
A lot is new. We have a camera reports app called FullCat. It's gaining wide codec support. That's coming out as well. We have a headless transcoding product now, Edit-ready server, which is integrated with Iconic, just like Offshoot is, so you can do a full camera to Iconic offload for RAW into proxies. We have Canister for LTO with a big version for Windows coming. Usually Mac only, so that's now Windows. And I think what's big news is that we have workspaces for Mimic. Mimic is our bin locking technology for Avid, for basically everyone that doesn't have a Nexus. It used to be only for shared storage, but it now also works for block-based storage. So you can use it for your SSD, for your RAID.
All right. So another product that you have that I'm particularly a very big fan of is PostLab. Can you tell us a little bit about PostLab?
Yeah, so PostLab is our version control system for Final Cut Pro and Premiere editors. And it's been around for quite some years. And it's been used by a lot of editors that, well, with Final Cut Pro you don't have any collaboration features, so it's the only way to actually do collaboration. But it's on a library level. And we're now revealing that we're building a new PostLab that can actually do that on an event level for Final Cut Pro.
Okay, this is big news because I have a lot of friends that they have been texting me and sending messages in forums saying, hey, we've been hearing that Hedge is making a new version of PostLab. So what type of details? Because, I mean, what is it exactly that we can do with event locking that we can't do with a library locking?
Well, let's take a step back. The problem of collaboration is that it's completely dependent on the cloud, so it's also dependent on subscriptions, and we want to get rid of that. So PostLab currently is a subscription because it needs a server component. The new PostLab that we're building is serverless, so it can work locally, it can work on shared storage, but it can also, through S3, work as remote storage, where you control the storage yourself, and so there's no vendor lock-in. On top of that, you get what we call event locking, and it's a bit paradigm shift for Final Cut Pro editors mostly, where you no longer work in a library, but we just give you a list of all the events that you have, and you can cherry pick the set of events that you want to work in. We create an impromptu library for that, an ad hoc library. That's what you work in. When you're done, we save the events back, and so that other editors on your team know which events you are working on. So it's not just all events in your library are locked to all of them, but it's only the ones that you want to work on that day, and then they can open a copy of that event and still use that media.
Right, Paul, that's massive. That's a massive change of... It's going to be completely different for everyone that's using PostLab right now, right? Do you have any idea about when you're planning on getting there and making that available for people?
Yeah, we built the guts the last 1.5 years, and we're now going to build the interface, so we think we'll be able to show something near IBC.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, I do have a lot of friends watching this and in the panel right now that are editors. Bill, is there anything there that people want to ask Paul?
No, just tell Paul thank you so much, because I've been using Hedge from early in my career, and the ability to make sure in a DIT kind of situation that every bit of every file was getting transferred onto our backups and things like that, so that you would come back from the field and have no fear about something going wrong, has been tremendous. So I'm really excited to see Hedge expanding off into these new areas. I think it's going to be fabulous technology. So thank you, Paul, for everything you've done and continuing to do.
Great to hear.
So
thank you so much, guys.
See you soon. We're going to zip back to the panel here, and then we're going to go back out in the field again. It's getting hot and heavy, and now you're starting to get a little sense of the kinds of conversations you can have at NAB, and that's why the show's been going as long as it has. I think it was 1923 was the first NAB, and it sustained itself as this coming together of all the technologies. You get to see new stuff coming. You get to see what the big companies that have been doing this for a long time, what they are morphing into in the new era that isn't quite as broadcast centric. I'm not sure where we're going next, but is there anybody on the panel who knows this kind of storage system and how big a deal it is in this world where we're all shooting on digital things, and everything is moving on. The tape-based workflows of the past are now firmly in the past. Everything is virtual. Grant, this transition has been pretty rapid and pretty impressive.
Yeah, this is a good example. I didn't know Hedge at all, and it's an example of when you're walking around the floor, you see all this like purpose-built software that obviously has quite a big following and lots of customers, and something that you've never heard of or needed, and so there's a lot of different sort of groups of customers, I think, that start walking around these halls. going from kind of these content creators, doing things on their phone, right up to, full TV stations that have to have all sorts of software to manage their processes and workflow.
And that's the big lesson as you go through. I'll never forget, I was shooting kind of just for something casual. It wasn't a paid client, but I let my phone get too full, and the last piece that I'd shot that I thought was pretty important. It's watching somebody do dancing, a couple of young people at an event to a fiddle player, and it was just one of those charming shots. And I thought, this looks really good. I'm going to really use that when I get back. Somehow my memory in my phone got full, and the whole last clip just disappeared. And so in the volatile world of we're not shooting on tape anymore, where you actually take the physical thing out, it's all happening internally in computer systems. Not having that, I need to be sure this gets to my client. I need to be sure it's backed up. That's where, in the computer area, where companies like Hedge and others are doing checksumming and making sure that your work gets preserved all through the chain. Jesse, thoughts?
Yeah, and a lot of these companies are moving into helping customers with automated backups, where you're in the daily grind of just producing the media and you have to deliver it with a short timeline. So something that pushes it up to the cloud for sharing, you have it on your local drive, or you're even editing from the cloud, but something that sort of distributes those and creates those backups automatically for you is really helpful. Even something as basic as doing a stream and having that locally, or doing a Zoom recording and having that backup with like a Zap or a Zoom app to your local system. So yeah, I think having that automated process will really help out producers. And I'm new to learning about Hedge, so I'll take a closer look and see what they're up to as a service.
Roscoe, do you have some thoughts?
Well, yeah, I cut my teeth on being a booth demo for Promax, which was a storage solution turnkey company for video. Video is a huge data need. And I guess what's interesting to me is, you used to have to buy into specialized systems. You used to have to buy a specific drive sometime, not usually Western Digital or somebody supplied the drives, or hopefully not Micropolis. That's a whole different story. But now we have these things like Hedge that they don't care who your system is built by, they'll reach into it and pull what they need out of it and assimilate it into one place. And that's really interesting, the fact that it kind of takes those turnkey one brand storage systems, they're not quite as critical.
Okay, all the fun's at the show. Let's go back out to the show. We're looking for Jeffrey Powers and George Kennedy on the floor at NAB. What do you got, guys? Whoops, looks like we've got a little...
And we're feeling like celebrities.
There's lots of handshakings going on here.
Yeah, lots of celebrities handshakes going on, and of course we're at the OWC booth, so we're celebrities in OWC, I think.
So
yeah,
I'm excited. I was here yesterday. OWC has always got something up their sleeves, and for creatives, you're looking at this right now. You might think it's a dock, but it's not a dock. It's an SD card reader. So what OWC has done is taken the design of their OWC dock and turned it into this particular one is a SD card reader, dual, and the one that Jeffrey is holding is a CFast Express and SD card. But the good news about it is you still have the ability with the cable wrapped in the bottom of it, so you can use the shorty cable, or in the back, they have put an extra USB-C port in the back, so you're able to plug in a longer, like a 6-foot cable into it and still have that usability. Also, what I really love is this lockdown. How many times have you been on site and you want to lock your gear down, Jeffrey?
Yeah.
And you want to make sure it's
Absolutely.
secure. So that's a big deal, So OWC's got a lot going on, but this is really a game changer. Guess what? I ordered two. I ordered one of each.
Oh, really?
So for Friday's show, I might be showing this from my house at home.
Did you catch a price on this, or?
Actually, guys, it's right now, they're $79, but $89. The price is going to go up to $89. So if you really need an SD card reader, definitely this is the dual I have in my hands, and Jeffrey's got the CFast Express. These are USB bus powered. The reason they only have one CFast Express obviously is for power, your consumption. So, you don't want to try to run two CF Express cards. So this is a little gadget here that everyone should have in their bag, is the CFast reader and the SD card reader. I know Larry was on a little while ago and he talked about the sanitizing SD cards.
Okay.
We're going to bring him in to talk a little bit about that right now.
Okay.
So,
while he's doing that really quick, we walked around the booth, see a lot of really cool stuff. You can see it right here.
Hey, Larry.
Oh, there's Larry. I'm going to hand you my mic.
All right, perfect.
I was here yesterday, so we were extremely excited. We just showed the little gadgets. So,
Right on.
I'll tell them about the discount price. Let me ask you a question. I know if you scan your badge, you're able to get a free year of...
Oh, you're not putting me on the spot for something?
I'm not. I'm not going to put you in the spot, but I'm sorry. You have to be here at NAB, guys.
No, you do need to come to NAB.
Let's talk about the sanitizer. It's released for Windows. Mac is coming soon.
Mac is less than 3 weeks away.
It's a big deal because now you can actually wipe your drive clean. And I just want you guys to know the drive is going to be wiped so clean, you're not going to be able to recover anything on it. So before you try to wipe it, just lock your drives. That's all I have to say. Anyway, Larry, sanitizer.
Sure, it's more than just sanitizer. Energize software gives you sanitize, which gives you factory fresh performance. And not just like initializing the drive, whether the drive has been used once or 1,000 times. Energize will tell you the health of the card. It allows you to update in the field firmware. So there's new firmware that's come out. There's maybe it's supporting a new camera. It's taking care of an issue that existed on some other camera, some codec. You know, a camera manufacturer updates their firmware. Today, it's become important that you can now update the firmware on your cards. We're the only company that's implemented field firmware updatability on cards. Sanitize, though, unlike an initialization, again, whether that car is new, old, whenever it's at any state, Sanitize brings you back to the same performance as that car was brand new, fresh, and never used. Every time, and Sanitize takes 2 seconds to run. It's a hardware command that we built into the card to fully flush and clean the card versus doing initialization that kind of does, but doesn't. So this is big stuff. And the health check, always knowing the status of your card. These cards last forever. I mean, the truth of the matter is, it's really hard for a card to wear out. But you want to know that your card is fresh. You want to know that the card is healthy. You don't want to find out you got a card that could fail on a job. And this gives you that peace of mind in addition to all the other benefits.
So before we run out of time, because I'm hearing the wrap, you've done CFast Express, SD cards. I'm thinking micro SD, because a lot of lavaliers are coming online now that we're recording directly into it with micro SDs. Any future?
Micro SDs on our roadmap.
Excellent.
And just like our SD cards, the CF Express will be fully energized, sanitized, field firmware updatable, health status checkable, supported.
Larry O'Connor, OWC. Thank you, sir.
Hey, my pleasure, George.
Tell Larry, thank you so much for all his great products. A lot of us have been relying on OWC for our storage needs and for connectivity at our desktops for a long time. Looks like we're going to turn around and go right back out to the show floor. Team 1 is out there. Javier, are you there? Can you come in? Tell me what you're doing.
Hi, so we're not here at the LiveU booth. We are with Steve. LiveU has been in the internal part of our coverage. That's what we have in streaming out. We're walking around with this, and it's been super helpful for our coverage because we can jump from one booth to another. So you've been extremely helpful for us. What are you bringing today? What's new product with the LiveU? Can you talk about it?
Sure. Well, thanks for dropping by, and it's great to see you using a mobile unit. You can really get closer to the story. Right now, to help you out, we've got this new technology that we're showing here, which is called LiveU on-site production. What that does is it enables us to run a truck really close and use something called LiveU Extend, tunneling through AWS infrastructure. But it means that we can take almost a private network and drop it on top of the site that you're at. So you don't need to spend lots of time negotiating for ports to be opened at the venue you're filming at. So it saves a whole raft of time. But the thing that we're really excited to talk about, of course, is the LiveU ecosystem. What's that? Well, it's simply a set of production tools for live story creators to enable them to shorten workflows. So when I talk about shortening workflows, I'm talking about taking out additional activities, making it simpler, making it faster. The shorter the workflow, the more content you can produce and the lower cost you have to spend. Right? And so if you can get something for nothing, that's always great. To help you do that, we're also introducing something called LiveU Studio. So that's the world's first cloud-native, LRT-native live production system. So you've got your video mixing, you've got your audio, you've got some simple graphics overlays, and it automatically enables you to distribute your content to up to 30 destinations, digital destinations, at the press of just one button. So it really helps you produce much more content.
Well, that's amazing. It's just bringing great tools, and you can like make people be more creative and don't have to think that much of the technical aspects and get into the content creation. I think
Absolutely. If you're a storyteller, you want to concentrate on telling the story. You don't want to be thinking about the technology and how you need to be there early to set up. When a story happens, you need to shoot the action. Our job is to make all of the technology almost invisible.
Awesome. Well, you're doing it for us. We're really getting great content because of your systems. So thanks a lot. And Bill, do you have any questions for our here for Steve?
Well, we got a couple of people on the panel. Marty, did you have any questions, or did anybody else have any questions for?
I've got no.
No. Okay. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Whilst that's happening, I'll just talk to you about LRT, which is LiveU Reliable Transport. This is the technology that we're using to actually transfer this video to a receiver, probably out somewhere else in this building. But LRT is designed to take bonded cellular transmission, so we're using multiple SIMs, so that even if there's network congestion, LRT is intelligently managing the connectivity to ensure that this video stream is coming to you at the highest possible quality, given this incredibly hostile and congested environment.
And it's working beautifully. We're getting great signals from you on the show floor. So thank you for providing the technology that's helping us cover NAB. You guys are doing great work out there. So
thank you.
We're going to pull it back, I think, to our panelists. You know, one of the things we've been trying to do is incorporate our audience questions from all over the world. And Jesse, what have we got, or Alexander, what have we got on tap here for our audience? Alexander, are you?
I'm not seeing a question here.
You're not seeing a question there. Ah, okay. There we go.
Here we go. Talala Lopez Waterman in USA asks, Bill, could you speak to the types of people who go? Technicians, purchasers, are purchases made there, or is it just informative?
Yes and yes. And as a matter of fact, one of my pangs here in the first part of is just George's last inset, what he said, there's a special on the show on this dock for $79 instead of $89. I was going, darn, that's exactly the kind of thing I used to find on the floor at NAB. A new piece of technology at a specific discount just for the people who go to the shows. In fact, I came home one year from NAB with, I think, 5 GoPro cameras because they were introducing the new models. They wanted to make a big splash, and they were like 50% off just for the people who came to the show. Now, you don't always get those kind of amazing deals, but it is a show about commerce. So it is absolutely possible to find things on the show floor that are available for purchase now. You can get previews of what's coming as they want to get these devices out into the ecosystem of actual users and get the early reports back. Roscoe, you've been doing this for a long time too. What have you seen?
Well, traditionally, this is where the broadcasters, I'm sure the deal was negotiated for months, but would announce that ABC just bought, for example, the reason ABC has Panasonic cameras is for 720p for sports. And that big announcement was made at the broadcaster. So there were the huge announcements that would take place. I'm sure those people all stayed in very nice hotel rooms at the top of the hotels. But then there's the people that work the show. I used to work the show, and that's how I would go. I would love to get out of I was interested in this stuff, but to pay the room and board and all that to be there I did booth duty, and so you would those people would look around, and then there are the educators, and there are students running around too. There's a lot of students that are just there learning this technology, and just it's a great environment.
Absolutely. Marty, your thoughts?
Yeah, there are the larger companies, people from the networks, people from the cable companies, people from the Olympics. All the executives are there looking and talking with other executives, making deals about what equipment suites are going to be bought. We're going to be buying $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in cameras for all of our network studios. But then there are also small production companies who are looking for those little nuggets of things that they, can upgrade their own production values and make things easier for them, and looking for those special deals, as you mentioned, Bill. And there are everybody from all of the manufacturers who are there, they all have time to go walk the floor to scope out and see what other companies are doing as well. So there are technicians who go, there are engineers who go, there are designers who go, hardware and software designers who are going, people from all over. It's a very encompassing event.
Absolutely. Roscoe, you got another thought?
I was just going to add, and then there are the end of the show when you truly can go to a booth and say, I'll pay you $50 so that you don't have to carry that back to your office, or $500 or $5,000. And those, there are off the floor deals right at the end of the show.
You beat me to it. I'll never forget one of the NABs. I really lusted after a particular Matthews stand. It was outside of my budget. And the last day of the show, Thursday back then, Thursday after, I sidled over to the booth and I said, you really want to take that heavy stand and put it in a truck and ship it back? I got a couple $100 bills in my pocket. I think I got about a $500 stand for $200. I just said, take the guys out for beer with this. And they said, walk off with it. Here's a tag so you can get out the door. That was cool. Jesse?
Yeah. Also, folks go to look for trends and to see if their investments are going to last them 5 years, hopefully, to see what's coming out. A lot of companies are releasing AI-related tools for camera tracking or virtual production, or as we saw, video editing as well. A lot of companies are moving into IP workflows. So, no matter how much money you're putting into your setup, whether it's a home broadcast setup or you're a large network with a giant multi-million-dollar studio, you want to kind of put your finger on the pulse and see, which technologies have that sticking power. So,
all right, let's go to our next question, Alexander.
Next question comes from Jack Cannon in Phoenix, Arizona. What are your recommendations for first-time show attendees?
Roscoe, start us off here.
Well, I had students, and so I would tell them to go to the show. And of course, the wear the shoes, bring another pair of shoes to switch at halfway through the day, and make sure whatever shoes you bring, you're not wearing them for the first time, and that they're well broken in, and that you're very comfortable working them. But more importantly, the information, like you said, it's an information overload. And for a student, I say, go with 5 questions you have. And it may be, what filter can I use to get some sort of effect in an editing suite? And then go to Adobe and see what their answer is. And it may be a plug-in from a third-party company. Go with 5 questions and get a complete answer until you're satisfied. Feed yourself. Educate yourself, because the people that know the answers that can explain it to you are there. And but it may, like you say, you may have to move from one hall to another just to get one answer to one question, but you will get a great education by just going.
Absolutely. Marty?
Yeah, water and mints. Very important to keep in your backpack.
Very important. I will say that after a couple of years of going and doing a really poor job of attending NAB, and that's my own assessment of my performance, because I would go and I wandered, I get lost, and I wouldn't get to half the things that I wanted to do. So eventually it became, when I arrived on the plane, the first thing I would do, I would go pick up my badge, and wherever I picked up my badge, you can usually find the show program. It has something about all the booths there, and it's got a map, and you can figure out which hall, which places are in there. And I would take my Sharpie and I would say, okay, let me find 4 places that I must see in the North Hall. Let me find 4 places in the South Hall. Let me find 4 places in the Central Hall. Now you have West and you don't have Central. Basically, the point was that I wanted to connect those and figure out, okay, day 1, I'm going to start in South Hall. I'm going to go to these 4 things. If I don't do anything else, I'm going to at least get to these 4 things. And I would think I could probably do that in an hour or 2. Well, the reality was I always got into the hall, and at the end of the day, I had barely gotten those 4 things done. And then day 2, I would start in my most important thing in the Central Hall. And you just get so distracted. There's so many cool things to look at that if you don't have a path to follow, it's quite easy to get to day 3 and realize you've got a whole hall to do. You haven't seen 3 or 4 of the big things that you wanted to see. So I used to try to plan the work and work the plan. Okay, we're heading back out on the field again. We're going to the Panasonic booth. So who's out there? Javier, is it you or is it somebody else? Let's see. No, it looks like Jeffrey Powers. Take it away, Jeff and the gang.
I think I look like Javier, right? Yeah? No? Maybe?
No, I just didn't know where I was
we're
going.
Here at the Panasonic Connect. Yeah, definitely. We're here at the Panasonic Connect booth. We're here at Kairos. I almost said Kairos. That's Kairos. And we got Keith right here. And we're going to be taking, it's a software switching unit. What is it?
A hardware-based switcher that uses software to make all the magic happen.
Okay, tell us a little bit about it.
So the backstory, if you will, since we're in production and we like to talk backstory, or the origin story, if you will, is that just about everything in the production world has been revamped over the last couple of decades by GPU technology. Think about linear editing, doesn't happen anymore. Why? Non-linear editing, because they're GPUs. Video walls, replay servers, all used to be dedicated hardware. Now GPUs revolutionized it to make it into the way we rely on today. Every single thing, except for the switcher. Switcher is still proprietary, dedicated hardware, that sort of thing. Fixed numbers of ins and outs and MEs and keyers. Panasonic wanted to flip the script on all that. Essentially let the same technology that's revamped everything else in the world, the GPU, make switching better. So that's what Kairos is, the world's first GPU-based switching system that's capable of taking in everything from baseband to 722110, no fixed limit to the number of keyers, MEs, anything like that. Again, all the things that are constraints in the regular switching world, not a problem for Kairos.
Okay, and we have it right behind us, don't we?
We do indeed.
So let's take a look at it really quick.
Okay, so we're showing off 3 versions of Kairos here at NAB 2023. There's a cloud-based version, there's a conventional baseband-based version, in other words, SDI in and out, and there's the 722110 version. There's also different versions of the panel available. This is the compact version you're looking at right now. There's a bigger version we have, and there's even smaller versions still. Lots of ways to control the system. This is just one of them.
How much does that weigh?
So not a whole lot. This panel itself, again, is just analogous to a keyboard. For example, this keyboard has no technology in it. It's just a keyboard. This control panel has no video in it. It's just a keyboard, essentially. The actual meat and potatoes is taking place in the chassis that's behind the system. That'd be kind of tough for you to see. But essentially, that's where all the inputs, all the outputs are going. So I think we're going to point it out to you over there.
Yeah.
So it's all following along. The chassis that we've got is right here. This is the new kid on the block for the Kairos family. 4 total units now with this NAB 2023. This is the new top dog that we've got, and there's some units that have been out for a little over a year that are also on display.
Now Keith, I've noticed that we traditionally think about 16:9 regular horizontal displays, but I'm seeing some vertical stuff and vertical monitors here in the multi-views as well.
So exactly right. When we think about conventional broadcasting, that equals 16:9, full stop, all that. But the prevalence of video walls, the prevalence of people wanting to watch production on their phone and not have to hold it this way the whole time means unusual aspect ratios. Super wide video walls, 9:16 as opposed to 16:9, things like that. And so we're showing off some examples about how Kairos, while switching traditional broadcasts, can also do unusual aspect ratios. Super wide, super tall, that sort of thing.
That's a lot of great stuff. So they just have to go. Is it Kairos.com?
Kairos it is.
All right, there you go. Thank you very much, Keith, for your time.
Oh my gosh, thanks for coming by.
Thanks, Keith.
Back to you guys.
Thank you from the show floor. We're heading directly out to our next live insert. Felipe is with Shift. So, Felipe, where are you? Can you come in? There he is.
Hi, Bill.
Oh
I'm here with Shift
with.
Media with Michael Kamis, and thank you for coming back to us here. And you guys know this man. He is very famous around us here.
It's so good to hear your voice in my ear, Alex. That's fantastic.
Well, except Alex isn't here. It's
All
Bill
right,
Davis.
so
Michael, how are you?
I knew it was you, Bill. That's the fun part.
You're just goofing with me, Alex. And Michael and I have known each other for many, many years and have been on panels together. So it's really great to see you. I'm going to leave. We got to get some content out. So Felipe, take it away.
All right. So Shift Media, tell us what it is about, what you guys do.
Shift Media has been around for over a decade. We have 3 main products. We have WireDrive, which is review and approve mainly for creative agencies. We also have Media Silo, which is kind of a juggernaut in the M&E space, and that's for on-demand review and approve and light asset management. And then we also have Screeners.com, which is watermarked both visually and forensic content that's for your consideration as well as pre-release.
All right. So is this meant for enterprises or small consumers?
It's a great question. Media Silo today is for groups of 10 users or more. So a majority of our clients traditionally have dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of users. So it's mainly meant for kind of middle to enterprise-based clients.
Right, and then within the enterprise, are you storage agnostic, or do you need a specific hardware to work with that?
Great question. MediaSilo runs on AWS, and so you are getting an account on our AWS tenant. In some rare cases, for enterprise clients, we can be on their AWS account, but by and large, most folks say, I don't want to deal with it, just make it work, and we'll pay the monthly cost.
Yeah, too much headache. Do you do anything with AI?
It's a very good question. We very much are taking the measured approach because the same AI tools you used 2 weeks ago are different than the AI tools you used a month ago. And we want to make sure that we're doing this in the most ethical way possible. So luckily, Media Silo is built with a complete open RESTful API. So tying into just about anything AI related is fundamentally possible, but we don't want to throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. We want to do it right.
Absolutely. Let's completely do this right. And one last question. Do you do anything with text-to-speech, speech-to-text with those videos, for example, for enterprises that are, they get their video and they need to send this to another company to do the transcripts because they're going to be live and they need to have all of that beautiful there. Do you do anything that helps them in that sense?
We've had that extensibility for many years, and a lot of our enterprise clients, they all have their own either in-house solutions or third-party solutions, and so they actually write the code to interact with our API directly in order to do that. In fact, if I could tell you, we have a bunch of announcements this month or this year at NAB, and they all include integration. That means building a DaVinci Resolve panel for Resolve Studio that involves working with Content Agent, so by Telestream, so now you can do transcoded media movement workflows with Media Silo. We also integrate with Massive. Right? Massive is fantastic in terms of... Massive is massive in terms of file movement. That's just phenomenal. And my biggest and favorite one is a company called Looper. If you haven't looked into Looper, Looper.io, that now allows Media Silo to have on-demand review and approve and live review and approve, all from one provider, and that's via Looper.
I know a lot of people that are using Looper, and they're so happy. The pandemic was so terrible for them, and Looper came in, saved everyone with that. Michael, thank you so much for being part here of
Office Hours. It's so good not to just see you on a screen. It's good to see you in person, man. It is.
Oh, thank you so much. Back to you, Bill.
Bye, Michael. Have a great show. And that was Shift Media. So some great things coming from the show floor. I think we're going to dive right back into our questions. We've got so much to do, so much content, so many people covering the show. It's just fabulous. You guys are doing a great job out there, everyone. So let's dive to the next question, Alexander.
All right, we got Sky Gleason in Seattle, Washington asking, some physical NAB areas are, quote, CineCentral and, quote, Futures Park. Will we be seeing those from boots on the ground team office hours?
And the answer probably is maybe and maybe not. As you begin starting to see, if you've never been to NAB, it is such a huge footprint. They do these kind of theme areas. In fact, it used to surprise me, and I think somebody mentioned this on another part of our coverage, even nationalities, countries, Korea will have an area of the show floor, or you will see broadcasters from France or something like that. There are so many disparate constituencies who are interested in the material that NAB provides, particularly the new technologies that are coming out of there, that there's all sorts of little pods around the show floor that do things that might be unexpected to you if you're just thinking that broadcast is the way it used to be and we've got a few vendors and a bunch of TV stations and things like that. It's really wider now, and I think getting ever more wide in terms of the number of things that the National Association of Broadcasters show legitimately wants to cover. And I'm thinking very much in terms of vloggers and the internet influencers and things like that. I would expect, since the infrastructure is there and the equipment is now, even big manufacturers are doing things that are affordable for lower budget operations, but at the same time, some of the YouTube influencers are becoming big budget operations. You've got people like Mr. Beast who are pulling in millions of dollars, so they're not that interested in finding the least expensive solution, just like a broadcaster. They're interested in finding the most rugged and dependable solution, kind of regardless of the cost, so that they can make sure to keep cranking out content consistently over and over again. Roscoe, you had some thoughts on this?
Yeah, if you go to Cinegear, there's a lot of countries that come just to show off. They're trying to get films to be shot in their country. So I forget what, location type services will come and show off, hey, look what we got here. Oftentimes the industry knows what's been shot and where, and it's the cost of production is what really drives them, or sometimes a tax incentive. But here I saw that there was a Great Britain, I should learn to pronounce the other countries properly, pavilion. And I think that if I look at it, that there's manufacturers that maybe there was some help from a government office to, hey, let's bring these 5 companies, or you could apply and say, hey, we'll help you, with your room fares, and we'll buy in a group. So I think that does go on, and I think it's just, that's how they sell stuff.
Jesse, you have a real quick comment? We're about to go back out in the field again.
Yeah, just seeing what's up for offer this year in the Futures Park. A lot of it is deeper color science and things like pushing HDR over 2110, a new codecs like AV1. So if we get to Futures Park, or if one wants to research that on their own, they're really looking at emerging technologies and experimentation with those new technologies.
Absolutely. So we're heading back out in the field again. Let's see where we land this time. Who's up next on our rolling thing? It looks like I'm seeing George Kennedy there in the background somewhere. George?
Hey, Bill, what's going on, guys? We're here at Aputure, and I'm going to speed date with Brandon because I know we don't have that much time.
Awesome.
Brandon, what is new with Aputure?
New, we just released these yesterday, the Amaran 150C and 300C. They're 150 watt and 300 watt RGB WW point source Bowens mount LEDs. I know that's a lot of words, but it's to show how much these guys can do. This is an upgrade from our existing Bowens mount COB LEDs, but now with full color control. So these guys can do full color control. I can see, I put some green light in your shirt right there.
Ooh.
All coming from these lights right here. So the 150C and 300C, they're 150 watt and 300 watt output respectively. They have a larger chassis that's a sleeker design that has a slower spinning fan, so it can be a lot quieter for any environment that you're shooting in, especially when you need that quiet sound. And also, while this gray is the standard colorway, we've also been teasing and playing around with some limited edition colorways, like a pure white and a matte black, depending on what our users are liking. Because the Amaran 300C is all about color, so we decided to also change up the shell a little bit with a few more colorways. But what's most important is that they are Bowens mount lights, so you can swap out the modifiers really easily. I can swap out the reflector to a softbox, like the softbox we just announced yesterday, the LightDome Mini SE, which is the fastest softbox that you can set up in the entire Aputure and Amaran lineup. And we also have the Spotlight SE, which allows you to shape the light in a projection lens with M-size gobos and stuff like that, so you can create interesting shapes in your background and on your subjects. So these guys are super capable for what they do. This 150C only comes in at about $359, and this 300C comes in at $569. So they're super affordable for being able to pack a lot of punch, both in terms of power, but also versatility.
So let me ask you a quick question before we go on to the MC. Office hours folks are all about in their studios, their home offices.
Yeah.
What do you guys have for home setups? I know during COVID, a lot of us gravitated to home setups. What do you guys have to put in those small spaces?
In those small spaces, lights like this and that LightDome Mini SE are great if you have a little bit of depth. But if you don't have that depth, some of the lights over there, like our flexible lights and our mini panel lights, are also going to be super great because you can stick them right next to your computer monitor, stick them right behind your computer monitor, right behind your desk, and allow you to have a super flat but super high quality light that's going to be able to make your zoom images pop.
Excellent. MC Pro upgraded. Well, the MC is upgrade to Pro now. Tell us a little bit about it before we exit.
Yeah, so this MC Pro is an upgrade from the original MC, which was a favorite light of many. The MC Pro in particular is super great because now it's IP65. It has 4 times the brightness because it's a tighter beam angle, and it also has USB-C charging, of course, and it lasts for 2 hours in that same type of battery life, but also with magnetic accessories, just like we had with our M9. So I can throw on a magnetic flat diffusion. I can throw on a dome diffusion if I want to look at that extra creamy soft diffusion. If I want to control the size of the light, I can throw on the grid diffusion like that. I can take it all off with magnets. Super quick and super easy. It's super easy to use this guy, and I can control everything, these lights here and the MC Pro with the Sidus Link app, which really rounds everything together. We're running this entire booth off of Sidus Link just to show what you can do with our mobile application.
Excellent. And Sidus Link is there's an app and link.
Yes, the app is called Sidus Link. You can pull it up on iOS, iPad OS, or Android, and there's no need for any intermediaries. Because we use Bluetooth mesh technology, you connect directly from your smartphone to your tablet directly to the light.
Excellent, Brandon. Thank you, man.
Of course.
Back to you, Bill, and panel.
That's awesome. Man, we are seeing such cool things. I've been in Bowens mount stuff because I was in photography. And for those of you who have never messed with that, it is really cool. It's a simple connection system that Bowens still lights and photo lights. There are so many accessories, so many softboxes, so many grids, so many things to allow you to shape light here in the continuous light world that it's a huge ecosystem. I guess we're going right back out. And I understand that somewhere back behind me, you'll see a banana that I don't understand. Somebody's telling you the banana is important. Felipe, what's happening out there at vMix and why are bananas important?
Hey,
oh my
Bill,
God, that's why.
I'm here with Heath Barker from vMix, and then
they're banana, and I have the banana here for scale. So you can tell me who is taller, but don't tell me. So I'm gonna put this banana away. That's Dan, by the way. Heath, thank you very much for being part here. I have one very important question for you. Will we ever see vMix on a Mac?
The answer is no at this stage, absolutely not. And here's the reason. The reason is that vMix is geared towards the gaming space. It is used with gaming graphics cards, particularly the NVIDIA graphics card, and the gaming space is owned by Microsoft. And so that is why we gear everything towards Microsoft. Microsoft can, Windows specifically, can harness the benefits of the graphics card in ways that Apple simply can't. And so we take advantage of that, we leverage all of that, and that is why at this point in time, we absolutely have no plans to build a version in Apple. I'm sorry.
Wow, thank you so much. With that out of the way,
yes.
Tell me what is new with vMix. What can we do with it now that we couldn't do before?
Sure. So at the moment, in vMix 26, you now have access, you've gone from 4 mix effects, you've now got a 16 ME switcher, which pretty much to my knowledge, nobody is doing. So 16 MEs is just purely nuts. You can have 16 completely independent productions running on vMix at once. So that's pretty cool. SRT is another space that is that's like heavily growing. We're finally seeing, we've had SRT implementation for years, but now we're seeing that growth. So we're developing our technology there. So not only have we implemented better channel support for audio, we've also allowed you to bring your SRT camera feeds into vMix Replay for the very first time. So that's super exciting for those people that want to bring in cameras to a remote workstation or a remote session. So you could be running a replay from across the country with your SRT feeds, which is excited a lot of people. We've got a lot of customers that are really happy with that. So that's pretty cool. So they're 2 major features. There's plenty others.
That's amazing. Also, vMix has an option that you also bring remote participants, not through SRT, but something that was native, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So vMix Call is built into vMix. Depending on the version you purchase, you can get up to 8 callers coming in using WebRTC. That's the protocol that runs underneath the hood. Really, really simple to bring your callers in. So all you need to do is send them a link, and they open it in a browser, and they're already in your production, just like that. So it was super, super helpful during the pandemic. We helped like countless people do production where they needed to bring in people from the UK and the US and even over in our neck of the woods in Australia, bringing them all together seamlessly. So yeah, it's ended up helping a lot of people.
Now, one last question. Yep. GPUs are pretty expensive. They're coming down a little bit on price right now. So if I wanted to do a production with those 16 MEs, yes, what type of graphics card do I need? Do I need to buy the most expensive one to do that?
Yeah, so, I mean, it depends on your production and how many other inputs you have going on at once, but 16 MEs, we've managed to make it really, really efficient. So even the low-end graphics cards will work if you don't have too many inputs going. So maybe all you want to do is set up different language streams or something like that, or different language setups. So you're running one in French and one in Spanish and one in English. So there aren't that many differences, but it's still a different mix. For that sort of stuff, you could get away with something like a 1660 Ti, which is like really old and really affordable. But maybe in this day and age, like a 4070 Ti for your higher end stuff, maybe look at, for your really high end, you're looking at a 4080, probably not a 4090 for too many productions these days, to be honest.
Well, thank you so much, Heath. Yep. Bill, do you have any questions?
Hey, Felipe.
Or should I let
Heath go?
Yeah,
we actually have one from Jesse Mills in the panel. I don't know if you hear, but Jesse, go ahead and read your question out, and maybe Felipe can hear you.
Yeah, hey, Felipe, and how's it going? So just a quick question about how vMix could potentially integrate with the Zoom client. You know, currently there's a wonderful application called Zoom ISO, which a lot of us use, and you can see my Mac Minis back over there. So that's a way to bring in Zoom calls over NDI. Some other video software platforms are working on sort of native pathways to bringing in video conferencing contributors. Is that anything that could be in the pipeline for vMix, or is that at least within the realm of possibility for the platform?
Yeah, so we are working with Zoom actively now. So they've got 2 SDKs out in the world. One of them's publicly available, and a lot of companies are using that right now to do that NDI feed of every individual Zoom caller. There's a private SDK. We're talking to them about that at the moment. No promises that you're going to see that. So at the moment, your best bet is to just bring in your calls using another tool, such as... Am I allowed to mention other companies? Yeah, great. So I think Bridge NDI are doing it right now, which is another company that pull all of those feeds and you just send them straight into vMix. So you could use something like that right now, and then just sort of watch this space to see if you see that come into vMix natively one day. No promises though, sorry.
Well, what's important is that you're looking into it and you're working actively with Zoom, like you said, right? Well, so Bill, I hope this is okay. Jesse, thank you so much for the question. Back to you.
Well, we had another one from Roscoe. Do we want to see if we can sneak it in here, Roscoe? Can you get another question in?
Yeah, it's just good. What kind of what affects the latency on those remote feeds?
What type of what? Sorry, can you say it a little bit again?
Latency.
Sure. He was asking what kind of latency can you expect on those remote
SRT
feeds?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on your connection, really. So we would say typically expect something like 200 milliseconds between sources if you've got a pretty good connection. So that's reasonably fast, but I guess it depends on how quickly you want to run it and how much money you're willing to spend on that connection. So yeah, I don't have much more to add there, sorry.
All right. Thank you so much, Bill.
Oh, that's great.
As it's ever been, we're going right back out in the field. We got a couple of questions in there, but there's lots more to be seeing. We're going out to George. And where is George? George is, I just heard it in my ear and I missed it. George, where are you?
We're talking all about batteries now. This is our Core. The name is just Core now, so I'm not going to make the mistake of calling them. Anyway, we're here with John Walsh. So, John, I know we didn't have a short time, like I told you, so let us know what's going on with Core, because I know we could talk about the Renegades shortly, but these are what we're focused on, the small batteries. Tell us about the batteries you have.
All right, so I'll start top to the bottom just because it'll make it a little quickest. But as you said, the Renegade is what we're introducing here. We have 2 different flavors. They all fit in the same housing. The Maverick is nickel metal hydride, chemistry you guys are very familiar with, 14, 28 volts, etc. But in this same form factor with the Renegade, we're able to get 777 watt hours, so 777 watt hours, with what's called the lithium iron phosphate. It's a cousin to the lithium ion family, but what's nice about it is that it can take a beating, it can handle higher amperage. It is green in terms of environmentally friendly, but a little drawback compared to lithium ion is it's not as energy dense. So with the Renegade, we have the 15 volts, 28 volts for cameras, but we've also added a 48 volt to the Aputure lights, the Cream Source Vortex 4s, 8s, etc. The XL is 1,375 watt hours. Again, same connection for those type of fixtures, as the industry has moved to higher power consumption, higher voltages as well. So, our tried and true products, as you guys are familiar with, I'm gonna grab the Helix right here. Here's our Helix 150. It's a dual voltage system to kind of coincide and allow people who might have an Alexa 35, but also a Mini LF. They do not need to invest in a dedicated battery system for a specific camera, because this is native dual voltage at 14, meaning it charges at 14 volts, run any 14 volts device, but it also has the higher voltage 28 volt for the Alexa 35. And George, what you have in your hand, or what you just passed me, is our Neo 9. You know, this is our bread and butter type product. It handles 12 amps, can run everything, Blackmagic, Ursas, to certain lighting applications, as well as broadcast cameras, etc. I want to point out this right here is the RFID chip. So you don't need an expensive charger with an LCD to see where your battery is in its life. This RFID works with any free NFC reader, what you have. You can see date of manufacturing, cell count, etc. And then the last one, what you have right here,
G50.
This is a 50 watt hour battery. It's about the size of a deck of cards with some T-studs. So this is good for your monitors, your Teradeks, and has the 4
Excellent.
LEDs right here.
Excellent.
But it also has a USB and power tap connections as well. And everything we make, whether it's the Nano G50s,
this is the 150.
The 150 that you have right here, right? You can see the size difference. We make these in V mounts, gold mounts, et cetera, for everything we have in the industry.
Like I said, we have limited time, but what I do want to point out to the audience is most of core batteries, you're going to have this airline symbol on it, which means you can fly with these batteries. So that's one of your guys' mainstays, to make sure that we could take these batteries on board a flight.
Yep, absolutely. So anything under 100 watt hours, you can take pretty much as many as you want. 100 to 150, the guidelines are you can take 3, 1 on device, 2 spares, etc.
Excellent. John from Core, thank you very much, sir. Back to you, Bill.
Excellent. Thank you very much, George. A lot of good and useful information there. I think we're turning around and going right out in the field. We're looking at Sonnet next, and I understand Javier is over there. Javier, what have you got for us? Oops, it looks like they're a little bit shy of catching the feed, so they're still settling in a little bit. This is live to the web, so those of you who are in other parts of the world, you're seeing this exactly as it's happening in real time, and there will always be a few confusions like that. Somebody will pop into me. Roscoe, you had a thought while we're waiting?
Yeah, it's interesting. Somebody asked a question earlier because we did a little thing on Sonnet, and they said, "Oh gosh, there's a question or there's something I wanted to." So this just proves that we do go back. We do go back, and we get deeper and deeper into these booths.
Absolutely, and there's just so much to see. The one thing I've missed so far, and we'll probably have something like that tomorrow, is some coverage of just the scope. There are a few places that I remember specifically that you can get up high and get a overview of just how big the show floor at NAB is. It's a large. Each hall is very large, and there are 3 halls, so it's a huge footprint. I understand Javier is ready now for Sonnet. Javier, can you hear me, and can you sneak in?
Hey, Bill. Oh, yeah.
Just come on over.
We're here at Sonnet, just getting our frame. A little bit chaotic, as you can imagine. But we're here at Sonnet. They have this great expansion, chassis and the docking station. I'm here with Robert. Robert, can you tell us about what you're bringing here to NAB this year?
Well, we have several new products. This is our product line of docks. So we have the largest selection of Thunderbolt docks, and all at value prices. So whatever your needs are, we have a dock that works for you.
And the expansion chassis that we're up at the Mac Studios, can you tell us about those? They're very interesting.
Okay, well, we have several rack mount expansion chassis for Mac Studios. One of them just allows you to use Mac Studios, and the other one gives you a second module that you can put in a PCIe expansion chassis. And the innovative new chassis that we have for the show is a dual card that has 2 independent Thunderbolt ports. So each slot can give you a full Thunderbolt bandwidth. It's like double the bandwidth that you had on the previous chassis.
But that's very interesting and gives you a lot of power with just one little chassis, right? Bill, do you have any questions that you want to know here? It's very interesting.
I think Roscoe here on the panel has one for you. Roscoe, you want to go ahead?
I was just going back to research it. It had to do, I think it was the price of the chassis.
Concerned about just the price points in general of the products that we're seeing.
So what kind of prices are we seeing here?
Okay, well, the Thunderbolt docks start at $199 for a basic 11 port dock, all the way up to $299, which is the high end. We call it the Super dock, which has 20 ports, including some one M.2 SSD slot and some line level RCA ports in the back to run your studio monitors.
Okay, so we have our price point there.
I think Jesse Mills also has a question. Jesse?
Yeah, just a quick question about the multi-display outputs on the docks. Are you using something like DisplayPort or DisplayLink technology, or something else?
That depends on the dock model. There are several docks that do, not this one. So, for example, this basic dock has 2 downstream Thunderbolt ports, which, of course, you can connect to displays, and it also has a dedicated HDMI port, so you can plug it directly into a monitor. But we also have a triple 4K display dock, which is this one, that gives you the choice of HDMI or DisplayPort and runs 3 4K monitors. And the advantage of this will work with any Thunderbolt computer, Thunderbolt 3, Thunderbolt 4, Mac, Windows, even the M1, M2 basic Macs.
You basically have like a lot of configurations for different price points, for different outputs. It's great. You have like really a ton of options here. It's great.
Yeah, that's the advantage of having 6 different models. So you can, if you really want 3 displays, you use this dock. If you want a dock that you want to put 2 M.2s in, basically a storage dock, we have that kind of dock that has higher performance to M.2 storage modules. And then one that just has lots of ports. So it's basically with 6 different docks, you can pick the one that suits your needs the best.
Great. So you heard it. We have a lot of options, like different price points and different outputs. It's a very interesting.
Thank you, Javier. Great to hear from you on the show floor. Let's go back to our next question from our regular audience. Alexander, what have we got?
Next question comes from Craig Kadoki in Toronto, Canada. Are any of the teams on the floor going to Austrian Audio? Very interested in their history and new products.
It's great that you brought it up, and I'm not sure where the crews are and how they're going to the next, how they're finding the next thing now, but you have, by virtue of adding this question into the office hours queue, put Austrian Audio a little bit more on our radar. So the possibility is that somebody will see that tomorrow as we are fielding our teams and maybe say, somebody in the office hours system was interested in Austrian Audio. If they go buy it, maybe they'll stop there. We're trying to make this as interactive as we can. We're trying to learn how to react to our audience, cover what you want us to cover, as opposed to what we just run across. So, Alexander, you had thoughts?
Yeah, just a quick thing about Austrian Audio. For those that don't know, a lot of the people that started that company were ex-AKG engineers. So and also I'm also fascinated about their microphones, and they are making some truly amazing products. So it would be great to talk to them.
Okay, so another vote for putting them a little higher on the list. Hopefully we can get them on the show. If not, we're getting close to the end of the show for this time. If not today, then tomorrow. So we'll be back at 3 p.m., I believe, Pacific Standard Time, and do another couple of hours from the show floor at NAB. So this isn't your last chance. Right now, let's go on to the next question. TJ, I understand TJ is hanging out at Lectrosonics, one of the big names.
Hey,
TJ, what do you got for us?
Yeah, we're here at Lectrosonics, and speaking of, we are using Lectrosonics mics, so a big thanks to them for actually supplying them with us. We're here with Nick, and Nick, tell us what's new, what's exciting for Lectrosonics here at NAB.
So our newest product is going to be the DSR-4, which is a fully digital slot mount 4-channel receiver. It's compatible in a lot of different applications, mainly used, I guess, right now with, say, an SL2 sound devices with the sound devices mixer. Using a DB25 backplate slots right in, is compatible with their mixers. They have new firmware to give full control over the DSR-4, but it can also be used in a bag frame or a 4-slot rack mount.
Wow, so that would give you, what, 16 channels in one RU?
16 channels of all digital or backwards compatibility with any of our older transmitters, also our M2 line, DCH-T line of transmitters. Fully encrypted, available with a variety of backplates too. You can get AES out the back, analog out the back, the Sony multi-pin connector out the back, and the DB25 for, say, a Panasonic camera slot mount.
Awesome.
So that's new to market in February. We started shipping these guys. The DSR will be later this year. It's a 2-channel version, tailored more for ENG and camera use, but they both can be used in that way.
Any sense of what the price point would be on those as of yet?
Street price approximately is going to be about $44.50 on the DSR-4 and about $40.50 on the 2-channel.
Terrific. Bill, any questions coming in for Lectrosonics?
Well, no, Lectrosonics has been such a huge presence in the kit bags of almost every ENG videographer and most of the professionals I've known for decades. We're really appreciative of the fact that you've helped us out in getting our coverage from the floor at NAB coming in beautifully. So I don't see any hands raised today specifically for the booth, but just know that you guys have always been there for all of us in the production community, and we really appreciate the fact that you're still helping us out here. Oh, Jesse Mills had a question. Jesse?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I think there's some other innovative products or evolutions, at least in the M2R range in the IEM world for Lectrosonics. Could we take a look at those items?
Yeah, what do you got in in-ear monitors?
Sure, I'll pass along. So there's a question about the M2 line of in-ear monitors, some evolution there. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, would you like to go see them?
Sure, yeah, let's head over.
Check them out. So we do have a new receiver, the M2RA, which replaces the M2R. We wanted a little more versatility with this transmitter, and we also wanted to beef up the RF performance. So it's a redesigned RF section, much more robust than the M2R. It also has additional compatibility modes, so you can think of this as sort of a Swiss Army knife receiver. It'll pick up our digital mics in the D2 mode, as well as our M2T transmitters and camera hop transmitters, and even an IFB signal. So that's the new product. In that line, we still have our M2T rack mount 4-channel, mono-channel, or dual stereo transmitter with Dante. And the same technology is used in our camera hop transmitters and receivers, which are belt pack 2-channel stereo transmitters. All of this can be encrypted as well, just like the digital line. And yep, that's the new product here. Also a beefed up headphone output for those that really like a hot signal. Yeah.
For those who've been in the industry for 30 years and have lost most of their hearing, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, definitely.
Terrific. Well, Nick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
All right. Back to you, Bill.
Thank you so much, TJ. And it's been great to be able to come onto the floor at NAB and see so much of going on here. We're in the last few minutes, and we got a couple of things we want to do. First and foremost, we want to say thank you to our field teams who have been out there. You guys have been absolutely amazing for us. Let's just get a last word from Felipe on the team on my left, and we're going to the team on the right after that. Felipe, what's been happening? Felipe and Javier.
As always, a super pleasure here to be with Office Hours and to be at NAB, meeting all of these guys in person, meeting Javier in person. I'm super happy, and I mean, it's so great to just go and walk through a booth and see what they're talking about, what they want to do, what they are trying to sell us in the first place, right? And if we should buy it or not.
And it's been great. We're spending like 2 hours, and we just got like 20% of the central hall, north hall.
So much to see. There's just so much to see.
We're gonna try to walk around to get in after hours. We're gonna be streaming. When we find something cool, we'll let you know so you can get there. But it's been an amazing experience right now.
And over to the other team, Jeffrey, George, TJ, what have you guys got to say to finish up?
Yeah, guys. I think this. I wouldn't call this an experiment anymore. I think we had a good 2 hours. My feet doesn't really feel like I'm in pain, but I think we got a lot covered in the 2 hour span. Jeffrey, what's your thoughts?
I think it was a great job. Great job. We had some fun at the beginning and a couple of little hiccups to overcome, but as opposed to last year, we had a lot of great team work in the back. So I'm down here. Okay. So there we go, and we have in the ear. So what do you think, TJ?
I think it's a great experiment now turning into fully fledged production. I think this is great. Fascinated to see what the rest of the week's going to hold. We're only on
we
Monday.
We couldn't have done this without all of you, and we are so excited to be able to come back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Yeah, tomorrow, 3 o'clock Pacific time, we will be back doing the same thing. And hopefully right from the beginning, we'll have lots of things. There are so many people behind the scenes making this possible that we literally could not have done it without it. So you will, I think, see some credits at the end here. If not, pay attention when you see the credits roll at the end of any of the productions we do. These are the people who are really on the ground. We appreciate all of you who are our question feeders. We appreciate the panelists who take their time to come in. We appreciate all of the people behind the scenes who managed to make this possible. Watch the rolling credits, and we will see you tomorrow, 3 o'clock, same place, same station, right after office hours. And we'll see you on office hours tomorrow morning. Thanks for watching.